look at the fruits of globalism. Look at what it does. Implode countries, create giant masses of poor people. And it operates via the hoax that the establishment wants to create prosperity when they want to create the exact opposite as a tool of control. They are now talking about taking all of the money out of the people of Cyprus's bank accounts. And why shouldn't they? Why shouldn't foreign mega banks do something like that to back up their own losses in the bond market? Because they have a paramilitary police force there. That's just like a robber coming into the bank teller and saying, hands up, put the money in the bag if you want to live. And the globalists have set up Homeland Security, secret police apparatuses all over the world to be able to carry this program out against humanity. That's what's happening. And we sit here watching all of this come true in slow motion, then in medium motion, now in fast motion, and then it's speeding up to light speed right now. And I will tell you, and it's in the IMF World Bank document plans we've been warning you about for 12 years, or 11 years, since 2002, early 2002, that they do plan on doing this here. And that's why they've announced, oh, the NSA and the Pentagon and the FBI and every other agency, they're in your bank account live time watching everything you do. Gee, whatever happened to a warrant? Oh, they got to stop drug trafficking when it's on record that the big 6 Federal Reserve banks launder almost all the drug money. When you hear about a smaller bank getting busted for drug money occasionally, it's because they were laundering money of local cowboys, local people, shipping drugs in themselves, which the establishment doesn't cotton to. The war on drugs, this is a no-brainer, but people still don't get this, some of them, is about making drugs illegal so you can boost the price of the black market and go after your competition selectively. Voila. And I don't get how the public doesn't understand that. I don't understand how that is the case. It's a fact. It's how the British brought down China over 50 years because the Chinese government made opium illegal a couple hundred years ago. And within 50 years, they'd fully taken the country over via corruption. You make drugs illegal, it boosts the price, and then you ship them in and then take control of the towns, cities, and then districts, and then finally China itself. And then they had the Boxer Rebellion against that, and the rest of it's history, but absolutely hellish. And this is the type of stuff being exercised upon us right now. Now, obviously, we've got an incredibly important broadcast lined up, and I will cover all the news when we come back. I did a rebroadcast yesterday on the Sunday show because it was Sunday. I will be back next Sunday, 4 to 6 live, by the way. I've done 2 Sundays taped just because a lot of stuff fell on those dates, but I'll be back next Sunday, 4 to 6 live, and I'll be here live this entire week. Thursday, Mike Adams is coming in with a bunch of breaking news, but I'll be here Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday, and then back Sunday. And I just had a pretty interesting weekend here in Austin, Texas with family. We kind of had a mini family reunion out at a little hotel golf course resort. We didn't play golf, but that was where we went outside Austin. Have a very interesting story to tell about that. We were all sitting in a hot tub, myself and 3 local Austin business people by the pool at the hotel. And I'll tell that story later. I only bring that up because it was so amazing. We were sitting there talking about bankrupting the dollar, the globalist takeover, the plan to confiscate our firearms. And there was this guy sitting there for about 20 minutes while we were talking, watching us. And he got up and he said, look, we've taken over. You're not going to stop us. It was a bizarre conversation, but it was basically MSNBC. It was like he was regurgitating that, but he was such an authoritarian and laughing at us, saying our authoritarian takeover's here. You can't stop us. We have been robbed. Globalism has been a curse to this country. Everything the globalists are doing worldwide is about making you dependent. I'm getting storable food. You need it because it's the only insurance that you can 100% use. I have, family that are veterans and people like that. who can't live off their Social Security, who are disabled and things. And that's why I've bought so much food. Charity starts at home. I promote what I believe in 100%. And I believe in what they're doing 100%. And the globalists do not want you to be self-sufficient. I hope you will take action, get the 6 free meals when you pay for the shipping, so that you can eat them and see that it's quality. That's why I chose eFoods. As I did my research, I tested a bunch, bought a bunch. The other stuff was like cardboard or filled with MSG or made in China. So bottom line, folks, efoodsdirect.com/Alex. Follow the banners at Infowars.com or call the toll-free number 800-409-5633. That's 800-409-5633. Here's what I want to say just out of the gates. Just as North Korea lacks the technical ability to manufacture an automobile, just as North Korea lacks the technical capability to feed its own population, just as North Korea and authoritarianism in its purest form creates total collapse of human civilization, the total state is the collapse of everything. But those that wish to inhabit the total state always have such a relish for dominating and controlling that they can't allow anyone in their system to be free or open, so the society rots. But just as the West, not just China, but the West, ABB, the Swiss company that was headed up by Donald Rumsfeld at the time in 1996, transferred the nuclear reactors, sold them to them, so they could produce fissile material for atomic and hydrogen bombs. And that's on record, that the West armed North Korea. It's on record the West has moved our entire industrial capacity and capability to a large extent to the third world and predominantly China. It is a fact that we have been economically slowly strangled and culturally strangled. When you turn on the television, not just TV news, but any other system of establishment media, films, entertainment, you name it, it is all anti-liberty, anti-human, anti-freedom messages so that the United States can be fully broken. The globalists have always hated America because we were resistant to tyrants. And we became the example of liberty worldwide and the opposite of authoritarian centralization. Doesn't mean America has a perfect history, but the idea of rugged individualism is anathema to the enemy. So we are not just to be broken down, we are to be broken completely and, quote, re-educated. That's why our food and water is poisoned. It's why we're dumbed down. It's why they lie all across the country and say it's the law to take vaccines. And the new Canadian numbers just came out. 1 in 55 children have autism. They're killing us. I was talking to the lead singer of Anthrax last night. I'm going to get him on, by the way, guys. You've got to remind me. His number's in there in my phone. I forgot to give it to you. Because I was out to dinner with Dave Mustaine, and I was also out to dinner with the lead singer of Disturbed. I'm not name-dropping. The point is that Dave was staying at my house this weekend, here visiting, because they're moving to Texas. And I've known Dave for years, but he's been out here looking at houses, staying at my house off and on with his wife and daughter, and when his son comes to visit. But he comes out as well, and it's just they're all awake to the New World Order now. And he was saying most people he knows in the music industry are awake to the New World Order, but then it's the higher-ups, the management and people that are there basically pushing the establishment line and trying to not allow anybody to be successful who doesn't toe the line with the New World Order. That's why you see people coming out who were who've been pro-gun, like Sylvester Stallone, and I saw his quote last week. A month ago, he said restrict guns. I saw the quote last week. Guys, will you pull that up for me again? And he said, look, just get ready to turn them in. We're going to have to go to people's houses and take them. See, they're trying to break the ice here and just get you prepared to have your guns taken. It's really happening. And what am I getting at here? Authoritarianism is real. And it will overrun you like a staph infection, like a cancer. It will overrun you like a person being fed into a wood chipper feet first. And the pain is real. The tyranny is real. The wealth, the liberty is pouring out of us like someone who's had their legs chopped off. And we've got to admit that this is happening to get tourniquets tied around our knees or we're going to bleed out, which is the plan. And again, we're not a person who can't regenerate their legs. We can rise like the phoenix. The idea of liberty can do that. But we're bleeding to death right now. We're going into shock right now. And the globalists are doing everything they can to push us beneath the water to fully salt the earth of this republic. And if you look at what big government has to offer, if you look at the cult of government, where people that work for government or corporations that are associated with it feel this reflected glory and sense of power through the system. That's what they're doing. And I run into people who say to me, we are taking over. We are the collectivist, and you have failed, and you are weak, and you are pathetic, and I don't take what you say as serious. I don't listen to you. You don't count. And it's a mind game. Like Karl Rove telling reporters, I control history. I control reality. I'll change reality tomorrow, and you will dutifully conform yourself to that because I am the establishment. I am basically God. And we've seen Robert Gibbs make similar statements about how we lie to the public on things that are verifiably provable and on record, and then laughed at everyone. You know, when he talked about the drone program exists for many years, but I get up there and tell people in press conferences it doesn't exist, and then the media plays along with that. I remember at the time and said, okay, it doesn't exist. That's what I'm getting at here is you either revolt mentally, psychologically, spiritually, and make a break with these people, or we become North Korea. Because in North Korea, you watch the mass rallies and, you know, the inter-party members that come out, and that's only a few percentage of the population that are even allowed in the major capital-controlled cities. The other people don't even know where they are. They're basically living 2 centuries ago. The men and women are put in cages when they're in estrus, when the women are, like you breed animals, and then the babies are taken at birth and sent to government facilities to be basically trained for whatever specialized area they're in. And they've destroyed the basic human system there. North Korea is a globalist, communist laboratory of destroying humanity, of a boot stomping on the human face forever. And look, it's a third-generation, little fat, pudgy, weak coward who grew up in the most luxury boarding school in the world for his entire life and obsessed with Hollywood and entertainment. And then now he's the dictator over people, threatening to nuke Austin, Texas, where I live, and they can't even get a ICBM off the launch pad. Their medium-range missiles are rotting jokes. But still, the globalists, who are tyrants themselves, need it as the supposed threat. So my point is, if you don't refuse to absolutely break with these people, and if you don't refuse to buy any of their garbage and really hate them and disdain them and speak out against them continually, you will be dominated by a horde of locusts on power trips who are useful idiots who are in some type of mass mob zombie psychology to overrun free societies and dominate them. Listen, the establishment is going to take everything we've got because we have gotten in a broken position. We have put ourselves in a position of a broken prostitute who got off the bus when she was 17, a runaway, you know, from Kansas, in some place like Los Angeles or from Illinois. And she gets off the bus and wants to be a movie star because the narcissism of television and the culture, she buys into that. And she goes out to Hollywood, and 2 years later, she's been all used up with cigarette burns all over her, addicted to heroin because they addicted her to get control of her, and then she's just found dead in a back alley. America is just like that woman, just like that young girl. We buy into the culture. We buy into the Madison Avenue. We buy into the Hollywood. We buy into the Kim Kardashian. We buy into the fact that we're not whole. unless we go to this undiscovered, grass is greener, Hollywood imaginary system. And all it is a weaponized construct really created by Edward Bernays about 90 years ago is when they really started setting it up as a Department of War program to not just take over America, but the world. And Bernays wrote books about it. There's countless books. I mean, that's a fact. It's always been a tool of propaganda. It's just that they couldn't sell their program as hardcore back then as they are now because people wouldn't buy into it. They had to do it by incremental moves. And now when you turn on the television, the ads, the news, the sitcoms, the dramas, all of it is high-tech propaganda telling you that if you'll sign on to globalism, if you'll sign on to turning your guns in and open borders and high taxes on the rich, really the middle class, to transfer the money offshore, that somehow the economy will get kickstarted again. And instead, all we're doing is sticking our legs deeper down the wood chipper. I mean, look at this article that just went up at Infowars.com. World War Z scene changed to please Chinese censors. We've gone in 10 years from criticizing China with forced abortion and infanticide and suicide nets and Falun Gong to our media, from the new Red Dawn to the new World War Z, not even allowing, to show an outbreak starting in China. And I've read the book. That's how it starts. And it's all a big martial law conditioning program. It promotes world government. It promotes Marxism in the book. It says that the collectivist ultimate enemy is American gun owners who are exterminated. And they actually are thankful for the zombies killing the American people, the enemy of the UN. And the UN's the good guy. So again, this is a UN propaganda film. You got the communist Chinese government openly saying, take American people's guns, and then they now dictate what's in these propaganda films. Of course they do. It's global government.
Jakari Jackson here, and I want to talk to you for a second about water. You know about ProPure, our flagship water purification system, but check out some of our portable water filter products at InfoWarsStore.com. The clearly filtered water pitcher. Also, for those of you on the go, we have the Athlete Edition filtered water bottle and the RAD Eliminator Pro filtered sports bottle that removes radiation. And keep in mind, we have replacement filters for all of these products. The ever-popular grab-and-go bag favorite, the Life Straw, the Crystal Quest shower filter system, and the Aquapod kit, great for mass storage of water. And while you're at the InfoWars shop, pick up a copy of our latest book, 31 Days to Survival. You can find all this and more at the InfoWarsStore.com. And don't forget, it's your support that funds our operation. Sign up for our free newsletter at InfoWars.com/newsletter.
Okay, I'm going to get into the latest on the Second Amendment, the latest on total blanket amnesty and the North American Union's complete establishment. That's what this amnesty deal is. It will absolutely bankrupt the country and drive the wages down to nothing, which is the open goal of the UN and the globalists. But I want to say something here. I see things for what they are. From a historical perspective, if what was going on right now was happening 200 years ago, you would say America and the West has been conquered by a private combine. And that's what the British East India Company did. They conquered most of China, and they conquered India. And they were in control of India for close to 300 years. The British East India Company, it was also the Dutch East India Company, they basically merged later. But the point is, and that's the Queen of England and the Queen of the Netherlands as well. That's British Petroleum, Dutch Royal Shell today, is just part of it. And both of those families' wealth are national secrets. These are people that sat on top of the world imperial wealth. And so when we talk about world government, it's not the New World Order, it's the old world order. And they have conquered China. The U.S. government at the end of World War II, 1949, put Mao Zedong into power. And the communist Chinese over there have made deals with literal slave factories No environmental laws, no insurance, no regulations. The parents chain their children. You can type this in. Children in China chained to lamppost, where they may get one meal a day while their parents work up to 24 hours. And the little children sit there and go to the bathroom over the side of the curb in the dirt road, and they chain their children. I'm talking 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, to poles. Now, as soon as they're 5 or 6, they're ready. Imagine they want to go work in a slave factory because that's better than being chained to a pole all day. You want to know why folks come here from China and work so hard and get, top of their class A pluses and all the rest of it? Because they've lived in literal hell. There it is, heartbreaking pictures of Chinese toddlers tied up all day because their parents can't afford childcare. Let's scroll down and show that. Okay? In fact, there's a famous photo from like 3 years ago that shows a road with a fence on it, a chain link cyclone fence, and there's hundreds of kids chained up. Okay? Now, you think when they put in Agenda 21 that basically makes it impossible for us to operate businesses here with inspectors, on purpose, removing the authorization to build, say, a deck on your restaurant on South Congress, you spend $500,000 to build it, it's to total specs, and they come and withdraw it and order you to tear it apart. My lawyer, Eric Tabb, beat them locally for that local bar and restaurant. I mean, that's just an example. And it was the only time the city had been beaten in the last decade or something. It's about ruining you and making sure no one can operate in America or Europe or Canada or New Zealand or Australia unless they're insiders. If you're a big insider oil company, you can dump toxic waste right in the river. If you're General Electric, you don't have to even run a clean power plant, and your competition that's totally clean, they're shut down. This is all on record. You're a big globalist company, you're exempt from Obamacare. And they're hiring bureaucrats that hate our guts. They are imploding us. But this is what I'm trying to get at before we come back and really get into the big news. China now owns the majority of our supposed debt. But if you look at it, Americans have been signed on to over $600 trillion of the $1.5 quadrillion global that's not even our debt. So China owns most of the $16 trillion debt, or the largest piece, that Americans really do owe in the government. You notice government wants to bankrupt things as fast as possible because $16 trillion is not that much when you realize the faith and credit of this country that's still left. They're just telling you now all this debt is yours, and then pointing at the welfare class as if they got us into this debt, when the welfare class is a very small percentage of this, but I'm still against it because it's very dangerous, and they now feel like they're part of the state. They've never done anything in their life. We pay their salaries, the welfare class, the governing class, all of them, but they don't care because they are on a power trip through government. So now every Hollywood movie doesn't just have to get Pentagon approval and all this other government approval at the highest levels. There's no law. That's just how it is. Now we have to get approval if there's any criticism. I mean, I've seen cases with Spider-Man and Batman and stuff where there's just one Chinese police officer is shown as corrupt, so they have to edit it. Imagine, the American people don't have any special interest working for us, but foreign communists that run giant death camps now control our media. We'll talk about it when we come back. I mean, I'll just be honest with you. I am mourning our constitutional republic, completely captured by rapacious, predatory, anti-human, eugenics, transhumanist adherents who fully control most of the world's resources and have control of fractional reserve banking and fiat currency, so they can just create unlimited money to impoverish us. They use the fiat not to empower, because of mechanization and industrialization, all these supposed symbols of wealth are actually very, very easy to be delivered to the public. Instead, they are building a nightmare anti-human system of mass culling. And just to have it hit you that communist China, wildly authoritarian, wildly abusive, and you don't even hear that in the news anymore. And it's because globalism has taken over. The globalists are now able to not just have the foreign IMF and World Bank and Federal Reserve control our currency, our credit, and the nation's credit rating and future and sign us onto their debt through economic conquest, as they're doing other countries. They have teamed up with the communist Chinese with 1,300+ million people who are a eugenics death panel society as collectivist and basically barbarous as you can get. And now they have movies coming out where the UN is exterminating not just zombies, but any humans that won't accept global government. And it's called World War Z. And the communist Chinese don't like the fact that the outbreak happens in China. And so that's been edited so that the Communist Party is happy. I mean, of course they told me we couldn't hand out magazines anywhere in downtown Austin a few weeks ago. Of course they said we can't have Infowars.com on our car now. The police with straight faces, writing tickets. Of course the police chief where I live says ban, semi-autos or anything with 10-round mags as a start and don't have private sales because they want to confiscate them. Of course we live in authoritarianism. You don't get a job now unless you're going to do what the authoritarians say. And it's always going to be more by increment. And here I sit in America, and the communist Chinese, under just direct orders, said you can't have Red Dawn showing communist Chinese invading via Mexico, where, by the way, the Chinese military is massing. But it won't be the Chinese invading us. They'll be invited in under globalism. I mean, they actually have drills like NLE 9, 10, and 11 under FEMA in 2009, 10, and 11, where the Chinese military openly trained, along with 15 other countries, to, quote, take on domestic extremists. And then we got the training manuals, wrote articles about it, and it was to go after gun owners. Our military and the 5th branch Homeland Security operating domestically trains now and says in the news, this is now headlines, to take on gun-owning, conservative, libertarian, returning veterans, and, quote, white men. And see, that's the unifying thing. Collectivism, anti-gun, anti-family. Just say it's anti-white and then sell it as racial branding. And you turn on MSNBC. I mean, this is so over the top, ladies and gentlemen, I can't even believe it. And they say if you don't support everything the collectivists are doing, if you don't support banker bailouts, if you don't support turning your guns in, if you don't support total open borders, if you don't support massive tax increases, you are a racist. People say, well, I don't buy into that propaganda. It doesn't matter. They are selling it as politically correct to the minorities that are really the majority, that it is good. And they aren't good people if they don't dislike white people. I mean, this is open, organized, divide and conquer. And, of course, the ultra-rich white people and others that own and run this, they're never going to be touched. They're never going to know. It's all about getting all of us, while they implode the economy, while they bring down our society, getting us all fighting with each other where we see what color we are or what region we're from as the only issue, and not, hey, why is $85 billion a month in a robbery? Because they're going to make us pay this back in taxes and regulations and inflation. Why is that going to the private Federal Reserve and more than half of that to foreign European banks? I mean, that's on record that half the $85 billion roughly, or a little more than half, goes to foreign European banks, but the Federal Reserve will not tell the Senate and House Banking Committee where the money goes. I could play you the intro from the Obama deception, where the different senators are saying, tell us where the bailout money went. No, I won't tell you, says Ben Bernanke. No, I won't tell you, says the Treasury Secretary at the time, Paulson. And it's the same thing every week. If you watch the hearings every month, it's the same story. I live in a country where the communist Chinese, who own the biggest factories in the world and are billionaires, every one of the inter-party members, up-teen billionaires living in giant fortress palaces, helicoptering out to their weekend retreats with giant greenhouses, obsessively with only the purest non-GMO seeds and water. That's even in the news. Communist Chinese insiders, eat organic food, are obsessed with it. They don't take the vaccines. They don't eat the GMO. They are a eugenics operation. They're to kill their own people. They're to enslave their own people ahead of the robots replacing them all. And China is the place where all the GMO, human cloning, genetic engineering, cross species, plant, animal, humanoids, animals, cows that produce human milk. They had that 8 years ago. Rhesus monkey pets that glow in the dark that are part jellyfish. That's 15 years ago. I mean, Pepsi factories with human fetal cells flavoring. I mean, this is all on record, just beyond Blade Runner. And we're here in America watching sitcoms, watching dramas, where in every sitcom and every drama and every cop show and every thriller, every one of them, you are listening that watch TV out there, you know this is true. Every show, if you don't like vaccines, you're a terrorist, child molester. If you care about guns, you're secretly Al-Qaeda. If you're white, you're all secretly racist. Total, just every show, the father's scum, men are dumb, men are foolish, women run everything. I mean, this is full-on war. How do you think the globalists would bring in world authoritarianism? They do it like they're doing it right now. And does that tell you how important this broadcast is? I talked to Dr. Pachinik and I talked to other big insiders. I talked to, I don't even have time to do it now. Every day, it's incredible. I'm not bragging. I'm saying I haven't even realized who we are and how important this broadcast is. And I'll be quite honest, by the grace of God and your prayers, are we even alive and on the air right now? But there's coming a time when the globalists probably are just so arrogant down the open, they're not going to care. They'll want to smash Alex Jones right in front of you because it's just, I mean, they're now saying we took 10%, we took 40%. Now we may just take 100% of everybody's bank accounts. And it turns out the president of Cyprus, the leaders of their parliament, all the insiders months ago got all their money out. Of course they did. I mean, if you're a maid who saved their whole life or a school teacher, now they're saying, well, you know what, we just took 40% of your money. You know what, I think we're going to take 60 and maybe everything. And they won't let you get your money out of your bank account. They're going to take everything, folks. Thomas Jefferson said the level of tyranny you will live under is the exact level that you will accept. I told you they were going to take everything out of your bank account. I told you they were going to bankrupt every city in the United States and put it under emergency receivership to the globalists that created the fake debt bubble and got your cities to invest in bad derivatives. They wanted the cities to invest in derivatives, then hold everyone hostage saying, too big to fail, all the pension funds, all the city funds, all the county, all the funds will go under. If you don't prop all of this up, and then you sign on to the 1.5 quadrillion globally, and then your cities go bankrupt anyways because it was designed to. They sold the cities, the counties, the cop pension funds, the firefighter pension funds. They sold everybody this stuff because they had to destroy you to make you dependent. There's so much wealth in a free society and a free market. The IMF and World Bank and Exim Bank, all they talk about is getting rid of wealth that's privately held, killing overheating economies, as they call it. If we have a 4% growth rate, they call it overheating, but China can have a 14, 15%, and they don't call it overheating. Because the globalists have overheated it with slave labor that centralized the wealth transfer, didn't go to the people, to burn out the rest of the world's economic system. There was China at some times with 14%, on average 11% growth rates. According to Western Cook numbers, that kept it down because they were using our numbers to crunch it, more like 25% growth rates. Red hot, white hot economy. That was only a economic military system to shut us down. And, I was telling my wife this morning, I said, sometimes to see something super far away is almost bad, because as it gets closer to you, you become comfortable with it and get over your concern and the fight or flight instinct to actually do something. So I saw the ship over the horizon, with basically spidey sense, historical sense. Wasn't even that. It's just out in the open radar. But for the general blind public, I saw it over the horizon. And I warned everybody, just 2 + 2 = 4, and they said that was a conspiracy theory. And now the New World Order ship is broadsiding us. We're on fire. But the public has gotten so comfortable with it. But even myself, I saw it coming 20 years ago. And so now it's here, and it's going to get even closer. I mean, they're only firing for the first time now. Say they're a galleon, a pirate galleon. They're only doing their first broadside right now, trying to take out our rudders and our main mast. They're going to come back around, rake the other side. We don't even know we're under attack. We're drooling, drunk on TV and culture on the deck. We've been psychologically warfared into just jellyfish, spinelessness. Next, they're going to come up and throw tow cables on. And they're going to come on board, folks, and they're going to throw us all into the ocean. There's your daily analogy. And I'm looking across while they're, reloading these big guns, and the cannons are jumping in their tackle. And I can see their eyes now, and they are crazed with daggers in their teeth and sabers in their hands and pistols all loaded in their waistcoats. And I'm going, we got to do something. The communist Chinese now run our media. Homeland Security is openly saying Al-Qaeda is not the threat. It's white gun owners. I mean, it is just biblical what is preparing to unfold. And then I'm talking to all these different former high-level people in government and current ones, and they tell me that they go to CFR meetings and they go to Pentagon meetings, and most of the people there are listeners and are all upset about what's happening, and they don't know what to do. You don't know what to do? You listen to my show, and you're just, quote, glad I'm there? Glad I'm here? I'm going, hey, pirate ship, it's firing on us. And you're all going, yeah, you're right. Ben, Alex, you're great. You recognize the pirate ship right as a cannonball takes off somebody's head. And it's because the public is so soft and so stupid, even people that want to do something. At this point, we've just got to dig in and try to salvage something. And just get the word out as fast as we can as things begin to implode, so that people understand why all this is going to happen. But to now know that they are openly announcing plans in Congress to start going over the bank accounts, stealing our money, virtual added taxes, Tobin taxes, wellhead taxes, and the design is to destroy us. We are being conquered. We're under total psychological warfare and economic bombardment. The government has been shipping drugs in as fast as they could and distributing them since the 40s. And now they've finally gotten America so culturally rotten and so decadent and so disconnected that people have become nihilistic. And, say, well, then fine, let it all collapse, even though they don't know what it'll be like once it really collapses. There's this dazed, joking attitude with some people out there that, so what? This is all real, folks. It's all now happening exactly as we said. And I'm not pleased by that. It'd be like if I was up in the crow's nest and I said, to use the ship analogy, looks like a big galleon, the one that got stolen a year ago off of Hispaniola. Why, you know, by my eye, I've seen that ship before it was taken by pirates. Looks like Blackbeard's ship. And the pennant at the top looks black. I think I see white on it. I believe it's the Jolly Roger. Make sail. And they're like, what's make sail? And then now the pirate ship is right there with a big black flag. Skull and crossbones on it, man. Taking us down, hammering us hard. Hammering us hard. And you see all the traitors. It's so painful to see all the traitors showing who they are. All the big Protestant Catholic churches, police chiefs that have been pro-gun saying, turn your guns in. The great time of evil is here. And when we come back, I'll briefly tell the story, start the next hour, and take your calls and get into all this news. Again, I had family in town this weekend at kind of a small family reunion out at a little, you know, a resort outside Austin. And I went to that, and I was there about half the time because I had company at my house. And I just was in the hot tub, and all three of these guys were listeners. One guy was from Portland, Oregon, an engineer. The other two were businessmen. One was in construction. The other was another kind of business. I forget. We just had a discussion about how do we fix America? How do we wake folks up to the bankrupting, you know, the bank stealing the money in Cyprus. And this guy gets out of the pool and looks at us and says, we're going to get you, and you can't stop us. It was just so creepy. Like it was a pirate right there. You know, the natural thing to do. Man, these people are dangerous. They're dangerous, and they know. They know what they're doing. Is it not, my king, time to spring the trap?
No, we must desecrate the soul and the flesh of the Creator's creation.
The chain of life broken forever. A monument to our beauty. Talking about this is important. People say, well, you know, give us solutions. We've talked about 10th Amendment nullification. We've talked about impeachment. We've talked about, I mean, bottom line, though, America has to wake up and realize that things are being destroyed by design and that we're being impoverished by design under a managed economy system. In fact, there's a big article out today that's getting a lot of attention where David Stockman, the former head of one of the most important offices, the Office of Management and Budget under President Reagan, says we've been taken over by a criminal cabal that is robbing us and destroying us. They've had two Federal Reserve presidents of Dallas and Kansas City come out, that's a big deal, and say crony capitalism's taken over, we're going to be bankrupted by design. I mean, there is no future here. Do you understand? We're being destroyed, arsoned right now. And the communist Chinese drill, I mean, remember last year they had the Russians drilling to, quote, take on domestic extremists in Colorado. And I was reading the Denver Post, and people thought I was lying on air. And hey, I don't blame you. You know why? Because that sounds crazy. This is crazy. To have the communist Chinese telling us what we can do. And you know, I told the guys in the hot tub after this establishment authoritarian collaborator left, when I was in that hot tub, I gave him Rob Dew's email because he's good at reading his email. And I said, later in the week, we'll get, a couple of you guys on if you want to tell the story of what you saw, because it's so unbelievable. We're all calmly sitting there in a hot tub going, I don't know how we bring together, the country. I don't know how we unify people around the Bill of Rights and Constitution. The Cyprus situation, they're going to suck our accounts dry here. It's the Federal Reserve. It's the crony capitalist. How do we get our industry back? And one guy worked in utility contracting. He was talking about how they were shutting the power plants down. And it was all about saving America and unity. These guys were all successful. One was an electrical engineer. The other guys were successful in business. One guy, has a payroll of $250,000 a month. The other guy, he paid $300,000, he was saying, in taxes to the feds last year. And we're sitting there in the hot tub. I'm watching my kids off running around and stuff at the pool. My wife's over there in the pool. And this guy gets in the tub, and I said, man, that guy's an authoritarian. The way, he was about 67 years old, he said he was, later when we talked to him. He had a baseball cap on, and he was sitting there very elitist. And I was talking about China and the suicide nets and the mass extermination. And he goes, hey, China's doing a great job. It's not a problem. Have you read this professor's book? And, we're bringing in globalism to end the violence. Of course, there'll be some problems on the road to it. And I was like, whoa, you mean Fabian socialism? To bring in the world government, there'll be violence, but after it'll all be fixed. And he didn't know who I was, or he said he didn't. And he gets out of the hot tub and he leans over and he goes, the age of the white man is over. We're taking over. The demographics have changed, and we're going to get everything. We're going to get, your guns, everything. And he said, you've lost. And we're like, we've lost. We're talking about mega banks draining everybody's accounts. We want to build productivity and that. And because it was, 4 white guys in the hot tub. And I'm like, you're here at a resort enjoying the free market. This stuff doesn't exist in socialist countries and places that have become corrupt. It falls apart. And he said, like I said, what you say doesn't matter. We control things now. We control the narrative. And I went, what do you do? And he goes, I'm a government scientist in viruses. And he smiles, and I go, oh, my God, you think there's too many people. And he's like, you bet there is. And I went, oh, my gosh. He goes, I don't know who you are, and you don't count. And the other guy said, obviously, he meant he knew who I was. He just wanted to say, you don't exist to me. Like, it's where they speak down to us. This was an actual authoritarian enemy operative. We're going to get into the incredible world government takeover and what it looks like, what its plans are, and the fact that it's 100% clear they're going ahead with their program to bankrupt all independent private wealth not controlled by the crime syndicate. In this orgy of authoritarianism that is now starting to take place. But if you just joined us, I was telling a story about my mom had an idea to go out to one of these, it was a Hyatt hotel outside Austin, Texas, like a golf course and the river's out there, and there's, a big swimming pool and stuff for the kids. So we thought we'd have some family in the town, just have a small little family reunion for Easter and go out there. So I'm sitting there in the hot tub, and it's an upper end, nice hotel. And there's 5 white guys. There were other, quote, groups of people out there, but it had to be 5 white guys in this hot tub over at the end, because there were 2 hot tubs. And we're sitting there talking about how, the globalists are shutting down America, how both parties are corrupt, about how, crony capitalists are able to use government to shut down their competition, how they're trying to bankrupt us by design. So it was really a serious, heartfelt discussion. One guy's like, man, let's talk about the Rangers, because I hadn't brought it up. These guys were listeners. A couple of them had heard of me, but a couple were hardcore listeners. And another guy gets in the hot tub and is listening. And this wasn't like that evil Obama, these bad minorities. It was not even a discussion about that. But a white guy gets in there, looked like about retirement age. He said he was 67 later. He said the age of white men is over. You'll all, won't be here soon. And one guy said, well, how old are you? And he goes, 67. He goes, we got 9 years on me. It was, but the whole point was we were having a heartfelt, the globalists are going to bankrupt us, and they're working with China to leverage things out, and the poor Chinese people. Yeah, did you hear about this and that? Yeah, and I'm sitting there talking to the engineer, and the guy's sitting there. He starts defending communist China, and I went, so you're a collectivist? He goes, yes, I am. He goes, I work for the government. I work in pure research and viruses. And we go, so we pay your salary. And he goes, it doesn't matter. And he goes, we're taking over. And he gets out of the hot tub. We're being real nice to him. We thought he was joking. And he stands there for like 20 minutes, pointing his finger at us with the most ridiculous. It'd be like a 5-year-old kid going to WWF or WWE wrestling and standing by one of the, fake, muscle guys. Or, fake tough guys or whatever. I'm sure they are tough guys, but, it's like ballet. One of the actors. And actually, little kids feel powerful, reflected glory, standing at the knee of a big man. I mean, I've seen my son, I guess he's healthy, so he admires his father. Because we don't let him watch mainstream television. He disdained me, because that's the message. You know, he feels strong when he's around me. But it was just watching, like, yes, I'm an authoritarian, a collectivist, and yes, the state's taking over, and you individualists will be defeated. And he was laughing with, like, really evil pleasure. This was like a movie. And you know, all these serious guys that have all these employees and are smart, and they're going, I employ a lot of people. Obamacare raised taxes on people's payroll. You know, one guy, he's like, oh, whatever. He goes, that's all part of the takeover. It'll be different once you've been dealt with. And, like, you know, one guy starts going, why don't you just get out of here then? And the guy's like, you bet I will. Enjoy your time. And it was like he was like an anti-white racist who was a white guy. And again, it's like a football team. White, black, whatever, they're playing us off against each other. It's globalism. We're all being targeted. But it's like this delusion now with the Democratic Party. And I'm not even a Republican. People know that. But you know, they play the part of the other choice, which is so close to the Democrats, it doesn't matter. And that's the issue. They're going to open the borders up now. They're saying, well, that's the way it is on Fox News. Everyone agrees we have to do this. What, legalize the 30 million illegals? It's not 15 million or 11 million. Who then are highly nationalistic and taught not to want a Bill of Rights and Constitution, but to see the government as their friend. And then there's a racial affiliation that's force-fed. I mean, it is pure balkanization. And this guy was so creepy and on a power trip. Visit Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. When you're on the site, you can also tune in 24 hours a day to my daily radio broadcast. There's also a free iPhone app to listen to the syndicated radio show when and where you want.